Imagine waking up 30,000 years ago. No phone, no school, no job, no internet, no books, no television, nothing. Just a cave, a fire, and a small tribe trying to survive. Most people think ancient humans spent every second hunting animals, running through forests, throwing spears, fighting predators. But that's not what happened. In fact, ancient humans may have had more free time than many people today. So, what did they actually do all day? And how did they spend thousands of hours before civilization even existed? The first thing we need to understand is that hunting was not a full-time job. Movies make it seem like ancient humans hunted every day. But hunting was difficult, dangerous, and often unsuccessful. A tribe could spend hours tracking an animal and come back with nothing. That's why many groups depended heavily on gathering food: fruits, roots, nuts, berries, honey, and other plants. For many tribes, gathering provided more reliable food than hunting. This means a surprising amount of the day wasn't spent chasing animals. It was spent searching, collecting, preparing food, and moving from place to place. Once basic needs were met, people didn't just sit silently in caves. Tools needed repairs, weapons had to be sharpened, clothing had to be made from animal skins, fires had to be maintained, children had to be taught, and knowledge had to be passed down. Remember, there were no books. Everything a tribe knew survived only inside human memory. So older members spent countless hours teaching younger ones which plants were safe, which animals were dangerous, where to find water, and how to survive. And when the work was finished, something very human happened. They talked, they laughed, they told stories, just like we do today. Here's something people rarely think about. Ancient humans didn't survive because they were strong. They survived because they worked together. A single human alone in the wilderness had very little chance. But a tribe? A tribe could accomplish incredible things. Together, they hunted. Together, they gathered food. Together, they protected children. Together, they survived. That's why social life was extremely important. People spent hours talking to each other, building friendships, solving conflicts, sharing information, and strengthening trust. Because one day, your life might depend on the people sitting next to your fire. When the sun went down, the day didn't end. There were no phones, no movies, no video games, no social media. Only darkness and a fire. Around that fire, people told stories. Stories about dangerous animals, stories about great hunters, stories about past mistakes, stories that taught lessons. Researchers believe storytelling played a huge role in survival because stories helped pass knowledge from one generation to the next, long before books existed, long before writing existed. Stories were humanity's library. Now here's the part that shocks most people. Some researchers believe certain hunter-gatherer groups spent fewer hours working than many modern people. Think about that. Today, many people spend 8 hours working, 1 hour commuting, several more hours dealing with responsibilities, and then repeat the process tomorrow. But some hunter-gatherer societies only needed enough food for the near future. They weren't running companies, they weren't answering emails, they weren't attending meetings. Once essential tasks were finished, much of the remaining time could be spent resting, talking, playing, socializing, or simply doing nothing. Does that mean their lives were easy? Absolutely not. Disease was dangerous, injuries could be deadly, food shortages happened, winter could be brutal. Predators were real threats. But their daily schedule may have been very different from what most people imagine. When most people picture ancient humans, they imagine constant action, constant danger, constant struggle, every hour of every day. But reality was more complicated. Ancient humans hunted, gathered food, made tools, taught children, shared stories, built relationships, solved problems, and spent time together. In many ways, their lives weren't completely different from ours. The tools changed, the technology changed, the world changed. But humans remained surprisingly human. So, what did ancient humans do all day? Not just hunt, not just survive. They learned, they taught, they worked, they rested, they laughed, they told stories, and they built communities strong enough to survive for thousands of years. And maybe the strangest part is this. When we imagine ancient humans, we often see them as completely different from us. But after looking closer, we realize they spent much of their time doing something very familiar, living their lives, just like we do today.